first thing they've got to do, or anyone has to do, is they've got to turn around and invest in themselves. If you want to win, you want to be that 1%, you've got to do things way different to the other 99, and that discipline.
In my experience anyway, and like I'm a coach or anything, but when we work with businesses and we sort of create the roadmap, it's very much a similar conversation for where they want to be and then cutting stepping stones towards getting to that point, like through reverse engineering it.
Discount is the worst thing you can do in your life. And unfortunately, most people's default is, I'll just make it cheaper.
April 3 and 4, 2025, World of Titans is hitting Sydney. World of Titans is an event put on by Service Titan, and they are bringing out some of the most famous and well-regarded speakers in the trade space, including Keith Mercurio, Ellen Raw, Ismael Valdez, Catherine Elizabeth, Tom Howard, and now even homegrown Scott and Vicky Irwin from Network Plumbing. Guys, you've got to check this event out if you're serious about growing your business. And if you've ever had the opportunity to visit any of the events in America, you'll know what I'm talking about. These are amazing. And they are bringing this event to the shores of Australia for the first time ever. Stick around to the end of this podcast. I'm going to give you some more details on what is happening and where it's all happening. And I look forward to seeing you there. Ciao.
Scotty, welcome back to the siteshed.
Good to see you. You're looking well. Didn't get blown away, didn't drown.
Yes, in the wake of Cyclone Alfred, living up north here, it was a bit sketchy for a while. We got a bit windy, I'll tell you that much.
Got your hair, it's all good.
Yeah, blew some receding hairline off me.
Yeah, regain. Or turkey.
No, but all good. Yeah, it's a bit of collateral damage around the place, but otherwise, I think it was sort of not as we were expecting. That's for sure. So for you guys that aren't familiar with Scott, we recorded an episode a little while back where Scotty told a bit about his story, but to give you a bit of an overview, Scott is the founder and owner of Network Plumbing, which is a residential home service group. Is it Network Plumbing still, Scotty, or is it
Network Plumbing? Yeah, in Sydney and in Home First in Melbourne.
What is it?
Home First in Melbourne and Network Plumbing in Sydney.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, awesome story for you guys that missed that. Didn't get to catch that one. Go check it out because it'll just give a bit of context about some of the upcoming podcasts that I'm doing with Scotty in the space of lessons learned and some of the things that he's learned along his journey of building a business from 0 to 25 million a year in annual revenue. So do check that out. Scotty, thanks so much for your time. I know you're a busy man, and just before line, I know you. Before we hit record, you were telling us about a big problem. Actually, why don't you tell us about that problem before we jump into this? Because I think it's kind of relevant.
Yeah, it is. It's relevant to a lot of stuff that people do, right? So in my business, general managers and sales managers and all sorts of stuff, and they come to me and they say, "Hey, we're not making enough money. We need to lighten the load a bit," which is a fair call, right? That's what most people want to do, is streamline it. So first thing I say is, well, why do you think that is? And they go, overhead's too dear. And I said, I don't think that's the problem. Let's look at revenue and let's look at discounting. And then look at efficiencies after that if you need to. So in our case, it was a case of sales guys or sales techs or people just discounting jobs on the hope of getting more work for being discounting. The trouble with that is when you discount and you don't get the further work, it's still bad. And when you discount, you're just killing yourself. The discount is the worst thing you can do in your life. And unfortunately, most people's default is, I'll just make it cheaper. And your customer will always, in my opinion, will always say, hey, is that your best price? Well, you stand your ground and say, yes, we're awesome, and that's the price to do the job properly. You'll get someone to do it cheap if you want, so call them. But if you want it done and you're done right, this is what you pay. Have that conversation. 99.9 people say, yeah, go ahead and do it. They're just asking because that's how they're built. We don't have to comply with the ask. And we find people comply. In our case, that cost us probably 20% of revenue, 400 grand, 500 grand for the month. Let's call material 20%, call it 500 grand. There's 400 straight to the bottom line because cost of business, everything stays the same in our world. It's just 20% off material, 400 the bottom line, 22, 24% net profit. Thanks for coming.
So in identifying that, you established that there was certain technicians that were discounting on
ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's our lack of training, our being complacent, and just assuming everything's correct and not double checking stuff. And we all fall on that trap. We're guilty for it. Go back and fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the secret here is, or that makes a difference, is actually finding the problem. If you find the problem, and that's the problem, well, man, we'd still be looking if it wasn't that. That would be painful. This is an easy fix.
Yeah. So knowing your numbers, of course.
Got to know your numbers. If you're happy with 10 or 12%, don't worry about it. My world doesn't float at 10 or 12%.
No. Yeah, and just out of context, just so guys do understand, like when we're talking healthy net profit for a home service business, what is that number?
In my opinion, 18 plus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we have this conversation all the time with clients of ours that are, and they go down this path of winning jobs to keep guys busy, kind of that dynamic, and I'm like, we need to be hitting 20% net profit as part of your pricing model. And if that means you're going to be losing jobs, lose the jobs.
I missed that. You dropped out. Sorry.
So say if that, like, they need to be making sure that they're hitting that 20% net profit on their.
Most people won't know, right? What my looking at businesses, most people don't know what their net profit is till the end of the month, right? Correct. So you really got to do this on the fly as you go if you want to be across it. Service Titan gives that ability to a degree. We still run job sheets in the back of Service Titan to double check this for us. And that's that's the lever we pull mostly to make the difference between 10 and 12 to 18 and plus. Mm-hmm. And in our case, this is what it happened to be this month and probably the month before. So we can't change what happened, but we can definitely change tomorrow.
Right. Fantastic. Anyway, today we're going to be talking a bit about self-worth. And I know this was like when we started this conversation a while back, like the thing that you wanted to speak about most was that. For what reason?
Well, we have so the saddest thing you find in life, right, is that you have people work for you have colleagues that are in the industry, across all sorts of different industries, but in the trade space, right? And at 50 or 55 or 60, they're retiring, they're broke, they haven't paid their home off, they're probably gone through a marriage or two, a whole bunch of stuff going on. And end of the day, they never believe in their worth. And these people used to come up to me and go, "Oh, you're expensive, you're ripping people off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." And we go, "No, not really. We're actually providing the service that we believe we're worth, right?" And that's what people miss, what I'm really worth. And the world's gone on and they've stayed where they were. And this is the $100 an hour mindset sort of stuff. Mm. And you've got to have the belief that, hey, my mechanic, if I've got a Merc, a Lexus, Roller, whatever, my mechanic's going to be charging me a minimum $500 an hour. Because it's a flat rate service, right? So it's in there, it's minimum. It's probably even more than that now. So, and then they've never gone past that and they've stayed in this mindset, $100 an hour, $120 an hour, even $150 an hour. And so they're broke, but they don't believe what they're worth. And it destroys all parts of their family and their life.
Do you think part of that's systemic?
No. I think it's educational.
Yeah, and power of association.
Yeah, who you hang around with, who you believe in, mm-hmm. what you read.
Yeah.
I think if you run a business or you do anything, you've got to hang around winners if you want to win, right? You've got to read the right books if you want to understand stuff. And a lot of people don't do that. People just go, "Yeah, I'm going to be a plumber. My boss did this, I'll do that." You know, that doesn't work.
I mean, like about being a systemic, like it's sort of just it sort of gets absorbed through osmosis of being around. I mean, the example I always give people is when I did my apprenticeship on the North Shore, with Paul Jones Plumbing, just around the corner from you guys. We were in our time in there, and back in those days, it was very much carbon copy invoice books and
100%.
Yeah, and I went and worked with Network Plumbing, and they were using those giant. I mean, sure you remember the trans.
Yeah, I remember.
They were like $200 a month on lease, and they never worked. But like I was all of a sudden like, wow, you can actually get paid on site here. Like this is great. But I mean, I guess the point is like through osmosis, I only knew what I knew through speaking with, like from my experience with working with that company. So I guess what you're saying is like get exposure to other things. I don't know. This is what I want to touch on with you because I know you've sort of like I've been part of it, where you do invest in yourself and your team, and you are constantly trying to expand those horizons. And I guess if we can leave the listeners and viewers today with a bit of a framework or some insights on how they could go about doing this from today, then I think that'll be useful.
The first thing they've got to do, or anyone has to do, is they've got to turn around and invest in themselves, right? You've got to, if you want to win, you want to be that 1%, you've got to do things way different to the other 99. And that's a discipline. Right?
Yeah.
And whether that's reading, whether that's podcasting, whether it's going to conferences, finding the best business in town and going hang out with the owner. Because what I've found is most really good people that run great businesses are happy to share what they've learned. And that's where you need to be. You need to be in that space so you can go, hey, this is what I need to do to be the 1% in my world.
The rising tide floats all ships. That
100%. Yeah.
I mean,
so many people don't get that.
I guess even zooming out a little bit, you would see that on a, I don't know, when I was working with you 15 plus years ago, whatever it was, like that, you would always be sitting there having conversations with, other plumbers and things like that about how to price accordingly. And I remember asking you about that, and you were saying, well, the reason I do that is because if they're out there and they're not charging the right amount, they're undercutting the whole industry.
They're killing the industry.
I don't mind. And I remember you, and I always remember you, you telling me, I don't mind if I lose a job to someone if they've priced it right.
Yeah, happy to. Absolutely, right. And the other thing, the thing I find really a lot of, and I do a lot of work in the 1, 2, 3 man space, right? And this is just charity, sort of give back to community. And the biggest thing I find is I don't have time. Right? What a load of bullshit.
Just switch out don't have with don't find. Is it that?
Just don't have time. I mean, what does that mean? You don't have time to invest in yourself, for your family, for your people that work with you. It's the most important thing we do. So that's been, and I even look, even on this service type thing coming up, right? The amount of people have run, I just don't have time. I say, you've got to make time. This is the most important. You're going to have the best speakers on the planet in front of you in our space, or some of them. You want to make time.
Yeah.
You need to, because this is where you're going to grow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so many people don't get that.
And so that, I suppose, mindset in the space of self-worth, I mean, obviously, this is a kind of time sensitive, I suppose, in line with whoever sees this podcast and what time, but there is an event running in April, which is next month, in Sydney, and we're, Service Titan are flying out literally the world's best speakers in the trade space to educate and bring the caliber of events that exist over in the US onto the shores of Australia for the first time ever, which is going to be amazing. And then that whole objection, I don't have time. I'm sure at some point you had that objection too. What were the stepping stones to overcoming these? At what point were you like, hang on?
It's fear. Right? It's fear of what happens if I'm not here.
Right.
That's in my world. That was what happens if I go away for a month.
Like a ship breaks.
Who's that? Well, I'll tell you what happens here, right? This is how you get around it. What happens if I die tomorrow? Does the world stop? Does anyone grieve for a week or two, maybe? And they just keep going because the world keeps going. The machine keeps rolling, right? So people don't understand that nothing's going to change if you're there or not there. It's still going to go on, and that they don't. It's really important that, and I have to do it with people who work with me. I say, hey, if you're not here tomorrow or you die tomorrow, it's still going to work without you. It's not going to be a problem we can't fix. So get with the program and invest in yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's just fear.
When you go about, I know you said this to me in a conversation a while back, but designing a better life, or creating a better life for yourself, an awesome life, what does that look like in terms? Well,
you got to start at the far end
and reverse engineer it,
and reverse it all the way back and go, where do I want to be, right? So, in my world, life's about you need passive income, okay? Right? So you've got to build your world around passive income, which means investing in something or some product, whether it be businesses, property, yourself. You've got to invest in something. Okay. And then when you're not working, your money's working for you. So that's really how you do that. So you've got to design how much do I need to live the life I want to live in 20 years' time or 30 years' time. And then you've got to figure, okay, there's the number. Now we've got to go get the number. How do I make that happen?
And is that a framework that is that like something physical? Is it like a vision board? Is it a A4 bit of paper? Or is it just in your head? Like,
no, it's in my. I've never written goals down. It's always in my head, and maybe that's a shortcoming. Like most people want to write them down and all of a sudden revisit them. I've never done that. I've always gone. I always want to turn left when I hop on a plane. I always want to give back to community, give back to staff, give back to a whole bunch of stuff. I can't do it if I don't make enough money to do it, right? I want to do it when I stop working as well, if I ever stop working. So you've got to build this right. Okay, so there's no framework, there's no physical piece of paper saying this is the plan. It's desire of not wanting to be broke and wanting to be able to give back to community that drives it.
Sure. Do me a favour, can you move left about 10 centimetres? There you go.
How about I move that right? Am I falling out of that screen a bit? Sorry.
No, it's all right. Yeah. I mean, I think this is in my experience anyway, and like I'm not a coach or anything, but when we work with businesses and we sort of create the roadmap, it's very much a similar conversation for where they want to be, and then cutting stepping stones towards getting to that point, like through reverse engineering it, so that you do have milestones and, okay, well, you can identify that you are on the right track. I think, like, my experience is most people don't know what the goalposts look like, and so they're kind of kicking towards anything.
Yeah, I guess. All right. You've got to find what you want, right? That's a pretty big question for most people. Where do you want to go in life? What do you want to do? Most people don't have that answer. They go, I don't know. What do I care?
And do you think maybe that's an ignorance thing as well? Like people
Yeah,
just don't.
100%.
Yeah.
They haven't thought, hey, I want to be 50 or 60 or where I'm going to be. I'm going to have this, and this, and they have never put any procedures or anything in place to get there.
Yeah.
They take every day as it comes. They're mundane. They're complacent. You can't win the game in complacency.
Mm.
You've got to step out amongst it and have a crack, and you've got to design it.
So and then breaking that down into like daily actions and tasks and so on and so forth. Are you approaching the day with the intent on the bigger picture? Like, I'm doing this now because this is where I know.
Okay. So the next thing that runs with complacency is consistency, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be consistent. Every day you've got to be cookie cutter stuff, right? That's how it works for me. Not the smartest guy in the shed, but I know if I do everything consistently, I'm going to get to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And I can afford to make a few mistakes because I'm going to back of the grindstone to make it right.
Sure. You're drifting right again. Yeah, and I guess that's there's some great books out there, like Atomic Habits and, all these books which talk about habit creation and doing things with consistency and creating positive.
I think two of the best books I've ever read, and I'm not a big reader anymore, but when I used to read a lot, the two of the best books I read, and this is more so for business that I brought into my own life, one was from Carl Seal, who's a Cadillac dealer in the States, first Lexus dealer in the US, and it was Customers for Life.
Okay.
Right? Which was really a good read on just common sense how to treat people, treat your customers. Unreal. The other book that was one of the first books I think I've ever read was Made in America, Sam Walton.
Okay.
Well, this is when Sam Walton was 1988, he probably died 1992, I'm thinking. But just a great book on a guy starting in the middle of nowhere, school of hard knocks, and getting life together and starting on the outside, working his way into the big cities. And it was an amazing story of just how to do stuff different. This is when you're playing against Sears and what's the other Pennies? What's the other store in the States? Penny. Okay, they're no longer in business anyway. There's businesses like that that were massive back in the 60s that have disappeared today.
Right.
So that was really a good book in how to insight and belief. Build it and they will come stuff.
Okay, but that can be a bit woo-woo, can't it? Because we've all heard of what was that book that was? It was called. I can't remember, but it was basically about if you can conceptualize these things within your mind, then it will come true and it will manifest.
Secret.
Is it The Secret?
Secret's on.
It will manifest into reality. But I think so many people like went and read that book and then sat on their asses hoping that it would come to them without actually doing it.
You've got to work for it. Nothing turns up without working for it.
Yeah, and so this is kind of what I guess like we're sort of unpacking here. It's like, what does that actually look like? I know for myself when we're setting like the business or personal like goals and strategies, we'll set that in like 3, 5, even 10 years. And then like I do kind of do it a bit more practical because I need to see things. I'm probably not as
Everyone's
smart.
different.
But anyway, but then breaking those down into milestones is kind of useful in this, and it's actually as well kind of from a business perspective, and we do this a lot because we have to with clients to help them understand to get to this point, you need to do these things. And it's basically a formula, but like it's actually quite comforting to see at the end of the day that you don't really need to do a huge amount in order to get that outcome.
Consistent.
Yeah, it's just sometimes small things with consistency, like you say.
So here's one of the best things I ever did. And my old man taught me this, and probably taught my brother as well. I'd say is you bank $1,000 a day, save 20%. Right? Number 2 account. And we still do it today where we move 20%, might be 15% now, to another 2 account out of every dollar we bank. So we bank 100 grand a day, we're going to move 15 grand or 20 grand to a number 2 account. Gone.
Yeah.
Saved for a rainy day. Now, that doesn't sound a lot, but when you do it consistently every freaking day you bank or every week you bank, it adds up. And it adds up, and then we go into the world of the third world to see compound, right? So you got complacency, consistency, and now we're compounding.
Sure.
And that's when shit really happens because we're doing it all the day, every day. And it's the same in education. It's the same in everything we do.
Yeah.
We're buying into the compound world.
Have you probably had no need to read this, but there's a book called Profit First.
Now, I've read parts of that book, but it's the same scenario, right?
Same scenario.
Yeah. I did a course years ago at Michael Leroy's place where he actually brought that author in.
Michael Michaelowitz.
Yeah, well, I forget if it was now. And the book actually sits in my bathroom.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But yeah, it's so true, right? But to simplify it, whatever you bank, move a percentage to another account and don't touch it.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Profit first.
Yeah, and it's going a little off track, but I suppose the premise of that book and that whole Profit First concept is to make sure that you always have funds available in the different areas of your business and life, I guess. That
everywhere, it's every part.
There's always tax money. There's always operational expenses money. There's always
there's another problem, right? Straight right there. So we talk about GST, right? GST is never our money. Right. I come to your place and the job's $100 plus GST. That $10 is not mine.
Yeah.
You're paying it to me so I can pay it to the government.
Yeah.
I'm the collector. A lot of people don't get that.
Yeah.
Right? And that's why we've always stepped, and this is a really simple thing in our world. Our whole world has always been, from day one, has been cost plus GST. To understand, to highlight to the people that work with us that money we are collecting on behalf of the government. Touch it is fraud.
Yeah.
Right? So how many people spend the GST? Every day.
Well, and again, I think it's probably largely, an ignorance thing in the space of not understanding that.
Not understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that 10 was never there.
So what were some of the most significant areas of development in the space of self-worth for you? Would you say financial literacy? As a plumber, I went through the course. You went through the course. They don't teach you this stuff.
So my life's driven from not wanting to be broke.
Right.
Okay, it's as simple as that. I grew up, great family, extremely hard father. Never really treated him, just a hardworking guy, right? And never speculate, never invest, really straight down the line. And this comes back to the 80s, right? So in the 80s, you were getting 18% on your money in the bank, right? So it's good, right? And this is when a house in Chatswood was worth 65, 80 grand.
But your mortgage was also 18%, wasn't it?
At that time, yeah, right? But think about this, right, on the passage of time, okay? You look at about that the house is worth 60 grand or 65 grand, right? We were earning some weeks back then in a hiring business, hiring tents and stuff, 10, 15, 20 grand a week, like big, okay? So he would put money, and he's investing back in the bank 18%, and they used to have rolling accounts, and so you have 100 grand or 200 grand sitting in accounts rolling. We could have bought the street.
Right.
At 60 grand, more cash you focus ticket. But did we buy the street? No. So that house today that's with the 65 grand back then, there's probably worth 4, 5, 6 million bucks now. Okay, what's the money in the bank worth? 3%?
Yeah.
So from that lesson on, I call that a person that didn't want to take risk, right, and was happy in being in his own space. I can't live that way. I had to invest and go, I don't want to do, because Dad was doing really well in the late 80s, but then the interest rates they crashed and the whole world changes, and now you're getting 2 bits of sweet FA for money in the bank, because money never grows in the bank anymore, and that's the real world. So all that money you have saved in there is worth jack. So I was never going to live my life that way. That was my drive to this.
Sure. And that's what led you into the, property investing route, like
investing, belief, training, whatever, and then ultimately investing in buying businesses and playing around in that world was where I wanted to go.
Sure. Yeah. And are there any, I suppose, along the way, you've obviously had to learn a lot about like financial, like literacy. Is that learned through School of Hard Knocks and just
back to the old man, right? Never spend more than you get.
Right.
Pretty common sense rule. How many people spend more than they have?
Oh yeah, credit cards,
loans, whatever. I spend hard. People know how well I spend on stuff, right? But I never buy crap.
Yeah.
I'm always investing in something that I can usually flip or whatever and do all right on. So we turn around and we go make sure we don't waste money.
What are some of the more, I suppose, successful investments or programs or things that you've been you've seen or you've invested in over the years that have paid big?
Okay, number one, foremost, best investment ever, people.
Yeah.
Right. Invest in the people that work with you, unreal.
Yeah.
Also some of the worst investments too.
Sure.
But definitely some of the best by a mile. Property, awesome. Don't do shares.
Don't?
No, I've got a share. I think I've got probably 100 grand worth of shares hanging around somewhere. Not even in my radar. Never, not a believer. Now I should be, but I don't have time to study the market to understand it enough, so I don't play it.
Commercial, residential property, both?
No, only commercial. And that market's done at the moment. Interest rates high, returns are low. You've seen the growth. You're cooked. You're not going there. So at the moment, so now we've got to invest in businesses or more back into people, because that's where the growth is going to be for us.
Yeah.
So definitely, and I've done some really shitty investments too, where I've torn up plenty of money, property, people. It goes on. So you live and learn. School Hard Knocks.
Yeah. I guess the bottom line though is you got to take that step forward, and
if you don't swing, you don't get.
There you go.
Put
that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, you've got to do that. Nothing. I remember when I first started this business. So let me go back to '87, right? So I started a business. I've just finished working. Get up, network plumbing's up and running. $0, zippo. Right? And we go back then. It was Yellow Page. Remember Yellow Pages? Big book. And Yellow Pages are expensive, so you take out the ads in the Yellow Pages or the pink pages or whatever it may be at that time, and you don't have a cent to pay for this, right? Not a cent. And you wing and prayer and go, I'm going to make this happen. And you make it happen, so when the bill comes in, you've got cash to pay for that. And that was my whole first couple of years in plumbing, until we could build the referral program and get all that stuff rolling, which I still have customers from 1987 still use us today. They still ask for me, and they get my son or my daughter, it's amazing. Or people that worked here for 15 or 25 years, they still turn up, right?
How's your perspective on, I suppose, this conversation changed through becoming a parent? Like where you initially was like, oh, I don't want to be broke.
Yeah.
That was the goal.
So now you become a parent, right? So that the world changes again for the better, probably. At times, maybe not. And you've got to navigate through. So you've got this little person. So you definitely don't want to be broke now, right? Because now you're responsible for someone.
Right.
So world changes, attitude changes, belief still stays the same. Not gonna go broke. And then you've got to install in that child is, hey, this is how you need to grow. You need to be honest. You need to be fair. You need to be humble. Be grateful. They're the hardest lessons to teach children. You know, you've got children.
From a values perspective.
Yeah. And they're the most important things to be able to teach.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to learn those, and then you've got to bring them into. Then they've got to work out what they're going to do in life and where they're going to go. And in our case, the son wanted to be a plumber. Good on it, grab it and run for it. And my daughter, she didn't really like school. She didn't like the friendship group, so she went into marketing in our business. Mm-hmm. Right decision, wrong decision, jury's still out on that. For him, 100%.
Right.
Yeah. But everyone that meets them in a business space, because I send them out. Like the other day, I went to a restaurant or takeaway, right? Unusual to be out for dinner, and I go there. And this old guy walks up. He's 90 years old. I didn't know that at the time. I go, geez, you're in good nick. We start talking about a whole bunch of stuff, and he goes, "What do you do?" And I said, "Oh, network plumbing." And he goes, "You guys are the best plumbers ever." This is no BS, right? This is like I'm nearly falling over. Guys, I've used you for 25 years. I didn't even know who the guy was.
No way.
I felt really bad about it. So, yes, I've used you for 25 years. I used to be in Belrose. You guys are phenomenal. You were at my place the other day. So I grabbed his name and I've gone to Vic. I rang Vic up. I said, Vic, who is this guy? Can you find out what we've done for him? He spent about 75K with us. And it's his birthday on Sunday. So on Friday, so this is Thursday night, on Friday, I've got a bottle of wine from Richie. And I've sent my daughter up to his place. She lives around the corner in Terry Hills. And I've I gave my daughter a bottle. I said, go give this to Barry and say thank you for what he's done. So 2 girls from marketing went there to his place and just rattled me. He's like, how good? And he's right. I spoke to him afterwards. And he goes, that little blonde, she was my daughter. He goes, how good is she? Like she just did everything right. So, so we're doing something right there. So sometimes you have some few wins. But that was just a really cool story that actually turned out really well.
Well, I mean, it must be, because, I mean, it's not often you get those stories, is it? I mean,
no, I was blown away.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not blown away because he was stoked with it, just blown away that the guy turns up at the same Chinese takeaway I'm at, and we start talking, and I find out he's one of our best customers.
Yeah. Right,
which tells us how good the operational side of the business is.
The fact you didn't even know him.
He didn't know who I was. I didn't know who he was. Yet he used us consistently. Great job for everyone that works here.
It's so good. So what are you doing these days in the space of developing self-worth? You mentioned you're not reading as much as you used to.
Well, now my biggest challenge with self-worth is getting the people that work with me and my children to understand the value of self-worth. And
how do you do that? Because it's a hard thing to motivate someone to read a book, you know.
Yeah, you're right. It is hard. But what I'm finding is a lot of people don't have self-worth when I do. I know I'm just asking questions. You haven't been here. Have you ever been to my new office?
I don't know. No.
No, probably not. So we've got a whole bunch of sayings. I call it belief wall, right? So on a wall I have everything that's saying something from Tommy, from Tom, from travelling, from all over the world, right? That just describe our life, right? From the day I started plumbing to where I am today. And everything on that wall is factual in my world. So I sit down I take my staff up there or whoever I'm talking and say, pick one of these. What actually resonates with you? And we start talking just generally about what's on the wall. It's like, to be the 1%, you've got to do what 99 don't do. What's that mean for you? It's all that sort of stuff. And then just getting into people's headspace and finding out they actually don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they can do this. So it's a whole conversation. And then this wall is really good. Is that impressive and that powerful? This wall, we're actually pulling it down to our windows downstairs in our operational section. in the next 2 weeks. That's how important it is for us.
And is that, I suppose, is that like your tool to connect with team, or is it the managers' tool, or is it everyone's tool?
It's for everyone. It's everyone to have, because everything, it relates to everything we do in our business, your business, everyone's business. Even relates to what we do in our personal life.
I guess what I'm saying is, like, you've got something on the wall there which means something.
It means everything to me.
And somebody might see that and go, "Oh, that looks cool," but I don't really understand it. Like what?
And then we go through it.
Right.
We walk through it. And if there's a problem, right, that problem relates to everything on that wall at some way. Or a win also relates to everything on that wall. You've just got to find it and discuss the point. This is all about starting conversations with people. It's about understanding people. I spend a lot of time, maybe too much time, don't know, but I spend a lot of time engaging and talking to people I work with every day. In fact, there's a sign saying, "Don't talk to this guy, he wastes your time." There's a picture of me. That's how nice my staff are.
Classic. Oh, that's good, mate. Well, they much appreciate that. I mean, I think for a lot of, like you say, and you probably have way more experience of this than I would, but the general lack of self-worth out there is a real thing, and people need to empower themselves with belief.
I think you would see that in your world when you're coaching people.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't really coach, but I see it, I suppose, more with, like, when we're trying to help them understand, the
Value
of their business and where it can go. They don't really buy into that because they're attached to their past experiences and their past methods and things like that. And that ties into what you're saying as well, I guess, with, the willingness to be agile and the willingness.
I think the other thing, Matt, that makes a massive difference, right? It made a massive difference for me, is when you travel to the US or you travel somewhere and you look at other businesses.
Right.
And you see, fuck, this can actually be done. How good's this? Right? And you go, there is a way forward. I got most of my beginnings from Rescue Rooter.
From where, sorry?
Rescue Rooter.
Oh, right.
Out of San Diego, a guy, Roger, who's known it, sold one of the first businesses aggravated and sold back in 1992, I'm thinking. And just like, wow, this is where the world can be.
When was your first trip to the US?
92.
Was that to meet Roger?
No, I went there actually to go on holidays. I went to Hawaii and then I went to States 1 month. First holiday, 30-day pack and go, what's going to happen on my way for 30 days? And remember, no phones.
Right.
How do you talk to it? You don't know. Sure. So, yeah, real weird. But that's and then I just driving through San, and I remember, and you can ask Vic, she'll tell you the same thing. We're driving along, and I see this sign, Rescue Rooter, and I spent 6 hours in the guy's office. And Vic's like in the car reading a book, going creepy.
Sign in his office.
But that's where it started. I thought, hey, this is amazing. And that's actually where this is before Ridge had sewer cameras, and a company called Seat Tech, who's still making for Ridge, actually were around the corner in San Diego and made cameras for this company.
Right, and that's when you started bringing them back.
That's when my whole world started.
Because that's one thing as well. You've sort of always been a big advocate of those, like exploring technologies, bringing them back here, pioneering them, and sort of, I mean, whether you meant to or not, kind of laying some foundation for a lot of other businesses to embrace those technologies.
What a difference! So remember this, right? So we used to trace drains with a freaking electric eel cable,
right? Yeah, I remember.
And a crowbar. Remember that? Yeah. It's over here. It's over here now. And I still remember the first time looking through a drain in a camera, thinking, "How good is this?" And then the locator. I mean, that changed our world. Dig here. And that's 1980, 1992.
Right.
Amazing, huh? How far we come in 30 years.
And what are some of those, I suppose, what are some of the things that you're seeing today that are evolving in that space? I feel like the Sparkies have had it way too good lately, like with all of the innovations and technologies.
You know what? I just copped this, right? So Richie comes and grabs me and goes, check this out. This morning, there's a PowerPoint you put on a wall that has no wire.
Wow.
And it sends a signal to a box in the ceiling that activates your lights.
Fuck, does it also Does it also pop popcorn as you walk in?
I'm like, imagine having a tap with no pipe.
Right.
It's just amazing, right?
Yeah.
But, so the world changed. So yeah, we have so much access to so much great technology that we never had that makes our world so much better and our customers' world so much better.
What do you think's on the radar? Maybe hydrogen plumbing and things like that? Think that's coming on?
Nah, I'm still a big believer in the basic stuff. Drains, relining, how we do that better. That's my forte. In the world of water and what's changing in that, there's a whole bunch of stuff has to happen in there, and it's extremely, that processing or processes is complicated at this point in time. Too complicated.
Of course, I'm just curious, when you see all these like stupid knee-jerk reactions like in the ACT where they turn gas off and all this dumb shit, and you just think, like, I wonder what sort of innovations are going to prosper.
Well, you can't turn gas off, and that's a proven point, and it's just crazy. And you know what's even worse, right? We have associations, master plumbers and stuff. Those guys should bat so frigging hard for that, because that just cut out 20% of their members.
Well, I mean, they do. I mean, like Nate,
they've got to bat harder.
Nate's, yeah.
Victoria, they got rid of it in Victoria. What happened there? Who fell asleep at that wheel?
Yeah.
And then not even to think about it and go, well, hang on, we've got all these houses already have gas, so we're not going to train people to fix stuff that already have.
Right.
Well, it's stupid.
Yeah. One of the cleanest energy solutions around. They just shit can it on wokeism.
Oh, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, let's not go there.
No, don't.
Anyway, mate, I'll let you go. Thank you so much for that, though. I hope you listeners and viewers got a bit out of that. I suppose in closing, just start investing in yourself. Start reading some books.
Hey, and pick up the phone and ask people who are doing it right. They'll share with you.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, I do that. I'll pass your number on to clients of mine to go speak to Scotty. I'll tell you how to do it properly. I might give you the bullshit sales pitch.
I'm more than happy to take the call.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, a good starting point for all you guys out there, if time permits, is get to the next Service Titan event. It's going to be in Sydney, April 3 and 4. It's going to be
Thursday, Friday.
There'll be some ads off the back of this podcast where you can get specific information for that. But if it is before that event, head across to thesiteshed.com as well. You'll get links directly to that event. I really hope to see you guys there. It will be an absolute game changer. You'll get to meet Scotty. You'll get to meet a bunch of other amazing business owners from all over the world. And it'll be a really good event. So, mate, thanks again for your time. Much appreciated. And we'll look forward to chatting again soon. Site Shedders, I have an amazing time-sensitive announcement that you need to hear. On April 3 and 4, 5 of the USA's most accredited and accomplished trade business experts are bringing their expertise to Sydney to teach you how to build, run, and even exit your trade business in an exclusive world-first 2-day event. You're going to get to meet and hear from Tom Howard, who built one of his many businesses from 1.4 million to 140 million and is now preparing to exit. You're going to meet Ismael Valdez, who went from 0 to 30 million exit in 1 year, and he's done this repeatedly. You're also going to hear from world-renowned experts Ellen Raw, Catherine Elizabeth, Keith Mercurio, and our homegrown plumberpreneurs Scott and Vicky Irwin from Network. For the VIPs, Thursday will include a tour of Sydney-based Network Plumbing's HQ, which is currently about 40 million revenue. There's going to be a Nail Down Your Financial Goals workshop with Ellen Raw and Tom Howard, followed by an amazing Sydney Harbour cruise. On the Friday, you're going to learn from the best in a jam-packed day with sessions from Keith Mercurio, Catherine Elizabeth, Ellen Raw, Ismael Valdez, and Tom Howard, who are all leaders in their relative fields. And if any of you, like me, have had the privilege of attending any trade-specific conferences, trade shows, seminars in the USA, you'll know what I'm talking about. There is simply nothing like these events. They are life-changing. And if any of the following points relate to you, you need to make sure you attend this event. You want to learn how to grow your home service business from 1 mil to 10 mil or from 10 mil to 100 mil. You want to overcome the mental roadblocks that are holding you back from reaching your dreams. You want to learn how to budget and become a first-rate financial manager in your business. You want to learn the formula on how to start, grow, and sell a trade business. You want to network with the best in the business. You want a tax-deductible excuse
to work on you and your business in one of the most iconic locations in the world. So if that all sounds good, head across to thesiteshed.com, scroll down and click on the link to the World of Titans event and register you and your team. And I'll be seeing you there on April 3 and 4. Now, this is a very exclusive event. There are only limited seats available to this, and I can tell you now it's already half sold. So if you want to come to that event, make sure you get in quick. Don't muck around. I cannot guarantee there's going to be seats available for long. So it's April 3 and 4. Head across to thesiteshed.com and make sure you register for that event. See you there.